Let's get into the big topic of open source, something that we actually say at Red Hat.
This is so awesome.
We are an open culture that believes in
What is that process that a developer, or let's say,
as the Kubernetes ecosystem really boomed?
Welcome to another episode of In the Clouds. I am your host, Stu Miniman. We are reaching the end of February 2024. Been seeing a lot of people at Mobile World Congress this week, and today we've got a preview of one of the big industry shows that we at Red Hat are super excited about, KubeCon and Cloud Native Con Europe, which this year is being held in lovely Paris, also the host of the Summer Olympics this year. So really happy to welcome to the program. I have one of the co-chairs of the event. This is the third KubeCon that she has been the co-chair of, Aparna Subramanian. She is the director of production engineering at Shopify. Aparna, thank you much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. For folks who don't know Shopify is an e-commerce platform that enables millions of merchants across the world to start their business and operate it at scale. And my role here at Shopify is making sure that our production infrastructure runs reliably, efficiently, and we are constantly scaling to meet the needs of our customers. And like Stu mentioned, I'm also the co-chair of KubeCon Cloud Native Con, and this is my third and final term serving as co-chair of this conference. And I often get asked, like, what do co-chairs actually do? So co-chairs are basically subject matter experts for KubeCon Cloud Native Con, and we work with the wonderful program committee to craft the vision, review all the amazing proposals that we get, and we do our best to put together a compelling agenda for the event. So thanks for this opportunity.
Yeah, Aparna, if you could give us the audience a little bit of your background. You know, events is not the core of what you've done. You've an engineering background, as you talked about Shopify. This is real usage of the kind of technologies that we talk about at KubeCon and Cloud Native Con. If you could just give the audience a little bit about your background, what got you involved in the community and led to your very active participation in the CNCF.
Yeah, definitely. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years, and bulk of this experience is in the infrastructure domain. And when I was at VMware, I was one of the founding members of the Tanzu Kubernetes Platform, and that was the first time I actually got involved in the Kubernetes community. And I mean, like I say, and like a lot of people say, once you meet the community, it's just like a wonderful, wonderful group of people. And one thing led to the other. I'm the co-chair of the CNCF End User Developer Experience SIG, and I think that's primarily how I got introduced to a lot of folks in CNCF, and that led to becoming the co-chair of the event. So I've been sort of wearing multiple hats. One is the vendor hat, and most recently is the end user hat.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. As you said, once you get involved, it's a very large community, but it's a very well-connected community. So once you get involved, you tend to meet a lot of people, and you kind of find more ways that you can help. So that is awesome. Your third time being a co-chair. I appreciate you said a little bit about what you did there. Walk us towards a little bit, this event here. Last year, there's been so much talk about AI. The maturity of this ecosystem has really played out over the last few years. I remember a few years ago, I said, we should probably be talking a little bit more about cloud native and a little bit less about Kubernetes, because that's kind of the base layer that everything else is built around. Is there anything from kind of the organization of the conference or new things that you'd want to share about just kind of the structure of the event this time?
Yeah, definitely. So based on all the proposals that we've received, we seem to have like three main themes this year. One is Kubernetes turns 10 in June. So definitely expect a lot of interesting content around it. I'm personally looking forward to some really amazing panel discussions that will reflect on the past 10 years of Kubernetes. And the TOC keynote this year is going to be focusing on the vision for the next 10 years of Kubernetes and cloud native, all things cloud native, of course. And there's some really practical talks like how do we improve the HPA in Kubernetes, right? And that's like super interesting for a lot of us end users and practitioners. There's a lot of great talks about the war stories, and that's also like super interesting for end users and practitioners. And there's the keynote on day 3, if I'm not wrong, which is the 10-year detour, the future of application delivery in the containerized world by Solomon Hykes. So yeah, definitely looking forward to all of these different talks. So one theme that's forming is definitely around the 10 years of Kubernetes. The next one is AI continues to be super hot. So, if you're an attendee, you'll definitely be able to come up to speed on like all the hot and happening topics in that area. There's some really good talks around optimizing performance and sustainability in the world of AI, accelerating AI workloads using Kubernetes and in GPU in Kubernetes. So I think there's like another great talk around observability in the world of AI. So lots of AI related topics. And the AI hub is again back this time. So there's going to be a dedicated space to learn about all things AI. And the third theme that's evolving is like you mentioned, given the maturity of Kubernetes platforms, it's not just about Kubernetes anymore. It's about cloud native and all the associated technologies that make up a platform. And given that people have been using, adopting, and scaling these platforms for a really long time, now the focus shifts towards optimization. And so you'll definitely hear a lot about like, how do you build and operate sustainable platforms? There's a great talk called Saving the Planet One Cluster at a Time. And then I have my own talk, which is Innovating Responsibly and How to Navigate Sustainability in the Era of Cloud Native.
Yeah, those are some great themes. I tell you, it's hard to believe that we're at 10 years. I remember sitting at, I believe it was the Barcelona show, even though it might have been the San Diego. It was one of the shows when we had the 5-year of Kubernetes. I had the opportunity to talk to and do interviews with, some of the original core members of the team that created Kubernetes, and to be like, wow, okay, we're another 5 years. And as you said, Solomon Hykes, great to see him involved in the community. Of course, the spark that Docker started to really bring containers to a much broader market was the beginning of the wave that led to Kubernetes and this whole ecosystem that we have. Aparna, one of the things I found kind of interesting is, KubeCon happens. There's the big show in North America and in Europe. It feels the European show has actually the last couple of years been larger than the North American show. I'm curious, what you see as you put things together. Is it just, does more of a global audience come? Is it just because we have great location and the timing is good on that? What kind of makes it that, even the European show is bigger than the North American show, which compared to most shows, North America is usually a little bit bigger?
That's a really interesting observation. I definitely think the location is more central to like people around the world. So I think that's one reason. Obviously the locations are also amazing. We had Amsterdam and now Paris. So that's another reason, I guess. But in general, we try to also, like, all of these events cater to the specific geographic regions. So we definitely try to put together an agenda that's a lot more focused on the priorities for that region. This time I'm seeing a lot around like sustainability, given the EU regulations around it, the new laws that are coming up. So there's, I think, the difference between the the two events is mainly, we try to cater the content. We try to also have speakers who are from the local area. So we definitely make sure there's a significant representation from that area. And of course, like the abstracts, the CFPs that we get. So that ultimately decide what the content is for that event.
Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, yeah, we dropped in the chat from a Red Hat perspective. I think we have about 60 sessions, and the majority of those, I believe, are European speakers. I know when it comes to the people staffing it, we have a lot local, especially being in Paris. We want to have quite a number of French speakers there also. One of the things also that kind of I found sets this show apart from many others is every single time you go sit in a keynote and say, okay, how many people is it your first time going? And, usually have 50, 60% of the people raise their hands. It's not, the same people coming year after year. I've been many years. You've been many times. What keeps bringing in a new audience, and how, from a conference standpoint, do you balance the, okay, we've been doing this for years, there's certain maturity that we need to build on, yet that we still need to onboard new people into the community?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I really think it's because of the success and the adoption of the technology itself. This was found around Kubernetes, but then now we have like so many 180 plus projects in the whole ecosystem. I think the community is so successful. The adoption is there. There's a great like vendor ecosystem around it. There are end users who are adopting and building their platform on top of these technologies. And as an end user myself, I like to say that we're so thankful for this community because we have all of these tools and technologies made available to us, so we can focus on what is important for the business. And in my case, it's like making commerce better for everybody. So I think that's the reason why we have more and more people and newer people attending these conference. And I also think they get a lot of value out of these like in-person interactions and the opportunities. And the event is also specifically tailored around catering to these new attendees. There's the Cloud Native Novice track, the Cloud Native Experience track. There's Contrib Fest, which is a great opportunity for anybody who's like just getting involved. These sessions are great. Like, they walk us through like a good first issue, like how to set up your repo, how to make your first contribution. So there's just a lot of intentionality behind making sure that this event is useful for first-time attendees as well.
Yeah, it's one of the comments I've made in previous shows is there is so much going on. It's not like you can say, oh, well, I'll just go do the main track. It's like, well, no, you really kind of need to understand what are the areas I want to focus on, what are the technologies I care about, is it optimizing what I have? Are there certain new technologies I want to learn about? It basically, if you remember the book, it's the choose your own adventure. I love you called out a number of things for new people and community. Are there any other kind of lesser known items around the event that you'd be like, hey, maybe you haven't seen this before, maybe this is a new aspect of the show, be sure to check this out?
Yeah, so in the recent years, there's this trend that we are seeing where there's a number of co-located events that are happening. So KubeCon is Cloud Native Con is a 4-day event. So the first day is dedicated to all these co-located events. And that's just such a wonderful opportunity for people to meet in a smaller group, network with people who have like similar focus areas, similar interests. And there's just so much learning that happens because these co-located events are much smaller than the next 3-day main event. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And like I mentioned before, Contrib Fest has been like hugely successful. This is, I believe, the 3rd time we are doing Contrib Fest. And every time the feedback that we get is, okay, this was amazing. I actually was able to sit down with my laptop and get my first PR in. The maintainer track sessions are great. If you're working on a project, if you're using a project, I think this is a great opportunity to maintain the project, meet the project maintainers. The project pavilion also is a great forum. You can just like walk through the project pavilion, ask the maintainers questions. And something that's new this time is we now have a poster pavilion. similar to like academia, like research poster styles, we have like people who are going to be presenting posters, and people can ask questions about like the latest and greatest developments in the community. So that's first time, and we're super excited for it, and love to hear your feedback on that. And in general, in my opinion, every first contribution or Kubernetes enhancement proposal starts with a conversation with somebody in one of these events and opportunities. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up, of course, what we used to call the day zero events, the co-located events. Big one that I'll be participating in is Red Hat Commons. Great opportunity. We have a lot of end users that will be speaking about their technology, how they're contributing. It's a full day event that's, I believe it's like 1.5 kilometers away from the main tent itself. We'll put the link in the chat here. It's free to register. And actually doesn't even require a pass itself. We have some people that just Europeans that will come for just that event. And at the main location, there's so many co-located events. I know Red Hat, we're participating in ArgoCon. There's Platform Engineering Con. There's the application platform, application development activity that was added last year. So, those are like mini conferences themselves that, immerse yourself, as you stated so well, meet a bunch of people that care about some of the same technologies you have. And it's such a great setup for the rest of the event. So, yeah, as I said, unfortunately, there's only so many things that you can go to. Aparna, I'm curious for the main event itself. How much of that is it all available on demand now? Because one of the tips we always have is the hallway track is one of the best things. So sometimes you want to be in the session to, ask questions, talk to the speaker afterwards. But, there's often times you said, well, in this one time slot, I'd like to go to 3 sessions and I can't go to them. So how do I prioritize what I do and what can I catch after the event?
Yes, all of the sessions will be recorded and they'll be made available on demand. So this time we don't have the virtual options. It's in person, but every session is recorded for people who are not able to be there in person, or they are catching up with their network in the hallway track.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch that. Of course, we had a few years of the, we stopped, we went back. Does the mask or they're testing? A little bit of. Definitely some very active conversations in the community about how those things should be handled. It's, I guess, nice to see that we're back to really main in person. And it was interesting. We kind of felt that virtual would continue, but at least, with everything being recorded, even if I don't go there in person, I can catch up on a lot of the things that happen. Is this the first time that there's no virtual event from the recent years?
Yes, that's correct. And I mean, the logistics of making both happen and making sure there's high quality, experience for both options is challenging. But the on-demand, the recordings are going to be available on demand. And I mean, I find myself still going back to something that I heard in Amsterdam and was like, I know the speaker talked about this, and I find myself like when I'm solving a work problem, going back and looking at the recording. So I think they're totally worth it.
Yeah, no, and you're so right. I know, like from the sponsor standpoint, when you had to do the virtual and in person, it was double the workload because if you're at the event, there's not really a lot you can do to support that. You have to have people back there, so it was a heavy burden. And if we can shift back to more the in person, that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. So we talked about the networking. We talked about all the other things. Are there any social gatherings built into the event itself? What other kind of ancillary things should we be looking forward to?
Yeah, definitely. There's the Cube Crawl and Cloud Native Fest. That's usually a big thing. That's like a great opportunity to walk around the solution showcase. There's a lot of entertainment, food, meet with people, network. That's a great opportunity. I highly recommend that one. And if you're an end user, there's the end user reception, and that's like a really great small forum to network with fellow end users, talk about challenges. I mean, and again, like we discussed before, the biggest value of a in-person event, in my opinion, is the impromptu interactions that happen, the casual networking. So, definitely take advantage of that. There's no preparation required. You don't have to like show up, perfectly or anything like that. It just happens. That's the beauty of the event.
Yeah, and I know usually the event has like little color codings you can put on your lanyard, so it's
Right.
like
Yeah.
green, yellow, red. And look, we understand a lot of people going to these events are a little bit more introverted. This community is so welcoming. When you see somebody with a green, or it's a speaker, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I know who that person is." A lot of times they're welcome to give you your time. I mean, everybody talks about like Kelsey Hightower and how giving he has been of his time. Many at this community are more than happy to introduce you to other people, to make connections and that like. And it is such a phenomenal community that definitely everybody should take advantage of that. So Aparna, I did notice in your bio that one of your interests is baking. And we are going to be in a place that is quite well known for their baked goods. So anything you're looking forward to when it comes to Paris?
Yeah, definitely want to check out all the popular local cafes, and I will admit that I haven't done my research on the places to go, but I definitely want to try all the popular pastries, and my personal favorite is a croissant. So I definitely want to try the Parisian croissant.
Yeah, the croissant definitely is there. So let me ask: traditional croissant, pain au chocolat? Are you a fan of both? Do you have a preference?
I love the traditional one,
Yeah.
the flaky, buttery goodness.
Okay, and so I've done a little bit of research myself. Just a note: many times in other countries, the croissant is actually like curved. Note that in France, you want to get the straight one. The straight one is one that is all done with butter, as opposed to the curved one can be oils and other things that are not there. In addition to the traditional croissant, my sister, who's in culinary, recommended there's a pastry called it's the quignon. And it is like a very old type of pastry. It is very rich. It probably has even more butter than a croissant. There's a place I've got tagged in Paris that's been making this for 150 years. And my producer, Rohan, who's going to be there, we were talking, there's been this viral thing on TikTok. It's the cookie croissant, which is like this mashup of like a chocolate chip cookie with a croissant that looks deadly. And he and I might have to check that out. So definitely tons of bakeries, lots of good places to eat. I'm wondering a little bit. It's been many years since I've been to Paris, but I remember it used to be like every dinner took like 3 hours, and it was phenomenal. But when I'm used to the conference, it's like, oh, okay, I don't have 3 hours in the evening to sit. I need to stop by here and see this person and do this other thing. So I'm curious to see how we balance the traditional experience of dining with how the conference itself goes.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. So start planning your event schedule and social schedule.
Yeah. And for just getting around Paris itself, it does have a nice transit system. The convention center itself is not really central, but there's like a metro line that goes right from there. When I booked my hotel, I booked one a couple of stations up so that I would be a little bit closer to places where I might want to go walk around in the evening, and more restaurants and the like. Because the convention centers themselves, if you've been to Barcelona, if you've been to certain areas, aren't necessarily the center of place that you'd want to have your evening activities at. Yeah, so Aparna, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I'd ask, as 3-time co-chair, any final lessons learned that you've had, things that you'd like to kind of share with the community as you put these together.
Yeah. So based on everything that I've experienced and learned from other fellow co-chairs, the co-chairs who've been there before me, we co-chairs, we are here to represent the community, and we do our best to hear the feedback from all of you, make sure that it gets incorporated, like what's working well, what's not working well. And we are continuously making improvements to the event to make sure that it's big, not only bigger, but also better the next time you come to a KubeCon Cloud Native Con. So please do stop by, say hello if you run into one of us co-chairs, and we are, looking forward to meeting you and hearing your suggestions and feedback and how we can make this event better. And we are here to represent the community. So.
Yeah, well, Aparna, as a member of the community, I want to say thank you so much for all you've done. By the way, for our audience, Aparna's joining us from India today. So, it truly is, it's European focused, but does pull in from a global audience on that. So last thing, I do want to pull in my producer of this show for more than the last year, Rohan, is based in Zurich, and he is being based in Switzerland, fluent in French, and he will be coming for the first time to KubeCon himself. So Rohan, if you want to help close us out for this session, and we really look forward to seeing everybody at the KubeCon show in Paris in just a couple of short weeks.
Sure. Great show, and thanks for hearing from everyone. La vie en cloud native, c'est la devise de KubeCon cette année, en fait. Et OpenShift Commons est le 18 mars. Et rejoignez-nous à KubeCon du 19 au 22 mars. Et merci de nous avoir rejoints dans notre voyage dans In the Clouds.